Early autumn in a quiet Swedish town. The leaves outside were already golden, clinging to the branches in a final show of color. The window pane was fogged from her breath. Margaret had stopped going outside. Something had been lost. Not just an object, but a piece of memory, a bond. For days, she searched the garden, retracing each quiet step. But it was gone. Until, one morning, she saw it, resting on the windowsill beside two crystal buttons. A ring. Her husband's ring. And the bird that brought it back. A raven with torn feathers and sharp eyes. They called him a thief in legends. She called him something else. What had he seen? What had he understood? A story of loss, intelligence, and a gift too precise to explain. This is not a fairy tale. It happened. Hit like, subscribe, and let's go. Margaret Lindstrom had lived alone since 2017, in a small red house just outside Uppsala, where mornings came with low mist and the smell of pine. A retired schoolteacher, she followed a quiet rhythm: black coffee at dawn, a blanket around her shoulders, and a handful of roasted nuts placed carefully on the stone ledge below her kitchen window. That's when the ravens came. They waited, almost politely, dark silhouettes against the amber trees. One of them, tattered left wing, sharp movements, always arrived first. She called him the Gray One. Feeding them wasn't a chore. It was a ritual. A thread connecting her to the world. The birds never came too close, but they watched. She talked softly, though no one listened but them. There was peace in it. A fragile peace. But as the days shortened and the winds turned colder, something small and golden slipped out of that stillness, never to return the same. It happened on a Monday morning. The air was crisp, the sky a pale blue, and Margaret, as always, placed the nuts on the ledge before stepping into the garden. She'd been rinsing her hands at the old outdoor basin, the one her husband built decades ago. For just a moment, she took off the gold ring hanging on its chain, his ring, and set it beside a flower pot. The wind stirred. A flap of wings nearby. She turned, distracted. 15 minutes later, it was gone. She searched the ground, the drains, even shook the hedges. Nothing. Her hands trembled as she retraced every step, every sound. Panic gave way to disbelief, then grief. That ring was the last piece of him she wore. And now, even that had vanished. It didn't feel like a mistake. It felt like something, or someone, had taken it. For 2 days, Margaret searched every inch of the garden. She sifted through soil with her bare hands, lit a flashlight at dusk, even emptied the compost bin. Nothing. The grass had been undisturbed, no sign of theft, no glint of gold. Just silence. The ravens still came, but she stopped feeding them. It felt wrong, like a line had been crossed. The Gray One lingered longer than usual, perching closer, tilting his head as if waiting. Once, he tapped on the glass. She froze. Was it hunger, or something else? The absence of the ring became a presence of its own, a weight that followed her. She closed the garden gate and didn't open it again. But even indoors, the feeling remained: something was watching. Or remembering. On the 5th morning, as fog curled low over the grass, Margaret heard it again, the soft, deliberate tap at the window. The Gray One. He didn't fly away when she approached. Just stared, still and alert. Something in his gaze felt aware. That evening, she pulled out an old birding journal she'd kept during her teaching years. There, pressed between pages, were notes on corvid behavior. A line underlined twice: ravens recognize faces. Remember kindness. Return gifts. She read it over and over. Could it be? She didn't know if it was foolish or true, but the next morning, for the first time in a week, she laid out the nuts again. Then waited. The garden remained quiet. Still uncertain. But for the first time since the ring vanished, she felt it, hope, small and trembling, settling beside her like wings folding into rest. The sky was still dark when Margaret stepped outside for the first time in over a week. Dew clung to her shoes, and her hands trembled, not from cold, but from resolve. She scattered the nuts carefully, then added something more, a small silver spoon and a broken locket, bright, familiar things. An offering. A signal. If the Grey One understood, he'd know what she wanted. It felt absurd, placing trust in a bird. But something inside her whispered, he knows. She backed away, watching from behind the curtain. Minutes passed. Then, dark wings cut the air. He landed, cocked his head, touched the spoon with his beak. Then flew off with one of the buttons. It wasn't the ring. Not yet. But it was something. A beginning. Her heart beat louder than the silence. She didn't know if it would work. But she'd chosen to believe. Days passed. The mornings returned to stillness, broken only by the rustle of leaves and the distant croak of birds. Margaret kept the window open, always watching. The Grey One came and went, sometimes alone, sometimes with others, but never bringing more than twigs or scraps of foil. She told herself it meant nothing, and yet, she waited. Each time she heard wings beat against the sky, her breath caught. At night, she lay awake, the house too quiet, her fingers closing around the empty chain beneath her shirt. She remembered his eyes, how he had looked at her, not like an animal, but like something older. The days grew shorter. Hope began to flicker, not disappear, but dim. She didn't know if she had asked too much of a creature who owed her nothing. And still, she waited. It was just after sunrise. The glass was fogged from her breath when she saw it, something small on the windowsill. Not food. Not trash. Her hands shook as she opened the latch. There it was. The ring. Her husband's ring. Nestled beside two crystal buttons, as if arranged with care. For a moment, she couldn't breathe. She reached for it, the gold cold against her skin, then closed her fingers around it like a prayer. Outside, the Grey One perched on the fence, still as a statue, watching. He didn't move when she stepped closer. Didn't ask for anything. Just watched. The morning sun caught the metal in her hand. She felt it again, connection, gratitude, something deeper than instinct. A silent gift. And a memory returned. Margaret slid the ring back onto its chain and wore it close to her heart, just as before. But something had shifted. Not only had she recovered a symbol of love lost, she'd witnessed a kind of understanding that defied explanation. The Grey One still visited, less often now, but always alone, always silent. She resumed her morning ritual, not from habit, but from gratitude. There was peace in knowing that kindness, even wordless, leaves an imprint. The garden felt fuller somehow, the silence richer. She often thought, maybe he didn't know what the ring was. But he knew it was hers. And that was enough. On the fence near the basin now stands a small iron plaque, for the Grey One. My sky-bound sentinel. And she smiles when she sees it, because some debts are paid not in words, but in wings. This story is more than just a lost ring found, it's a reminder that kindness can bridge worlds, even between human and bird. Margaret's journey with the Grey One shows us that sometimes, the smallest gestures speak the loudest, and intelligence isn't always where we expect it. What have you witnessed in nature that made you pause, believe, or hope? Share your thoughts below, your stories matter here. Thank you for watching and being part of this quiet miracle. If this touched your heart, please like, subscribe, and help us bring more stories of hope and connection to life. Until next time, keep your eyes open. Sometimes, the extraordinary is closer than you think.